Oh, Marisa Jacobs is the director of Xpatweb, and it's a tax consulting in South Africa. She says that we need to combat the misconception that foreigners take jobs from South Africans, when the truth is that skilled foreigners benefit the country in multiple ways. In her words, the President's State of the Nation address highlighted how important his ongoing efforts to attract more foreign direct investment into the country are. Investors, however, need to know they can access the right skills here, and that they can bring some of their own key personnel into the country to oversee their investment. Now, research shows that populist views that view that's very populist, that immigrants steal jobs, is definitely simply mistaken. That here in South Africa, in the United States, anywhere, at a national level, the presence of immigrant workers has no significant effect on the employment of native workers. And in fact, they actually make a positive impact on the gross domestic product of a country. It's estimated, in fact, that immigrant workers may raise South Africa's income per capita by up to 5%. Marisa Jacobs joins me on the line. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Upfront, Marisa. Please, can you just expound a bit on the data as you see it from your position at Xpatweb?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yes. The data comes directly from a book that was published recently by the OECD on how immigrants contribute to South African economy, and it's very enlightening when you read through the book to see exactly how they point out the different ways in which this is done. But I mean, on a direct level for us, we see many multinationals coming into the country, investing into the country, and then they want to bring in some executives or some professionals, or just in areas where we simply have a shortage of skills. They want to be able to attract talent from the globe, as many other countries do. We all have a shortage of skills in many different countries, and we're competing for these skills to bring them to our countries, to develop the job market, to develop our businesses, and to grow and expand.
And what sort of sectors are you seeing this taking place in, Marisa, in the main?
Sure. There's a critical skills list that was published in 2014, and I think that gives a very good indication that it was put together through extensive research by Labour, Home Affairs, and various, and also through engaging with big business. And it's across all sectors: agriculture, medical, engineering. There's a huge influx, and even things like auditing, risk, senior executives. We see a lot of senior executives still entering the country. Quantity surveying, you name it.
Yes, it's quite long. Yeah, these are mostly postgraduate areas, it seems, or in agriculture, it's agricultural engineers and the like. But there's definitely a gap at a semi-skilled level as well in South Africa. Do you have any information in that regard? Because that usually is where the pushback comes with respect to the immigrant conversation.
There's an extensive list of trades on that critical skills list, and there is definitely still a need at a very technical level, that there are countries that have a vast range of these skills with many years of experience, and we just simply don't have that base of experience to be able to take up. So we've got people who are keen to do it, but they can't necessarily walk in and start the job immediately. And where there are big projects with big budget and big timelines, the guys want to be able to get guys in who can get onto the job immediately. But I think that the area where we are still lacking in South Africa is really transferring that skill so that we can, in 10, 20 years, have a better base of skills.
I'm with you. Now, just out of interest, there was this contention that we can, by having an immigrant, we can increase South African income per capita by about 5%. In addition to each South African workers, there's also the contention that it increases tax. How is it that immigrants tend to pay more tax?
I think the thinking there is that a lot of the executive guys are earning big salaries, and if you are looking for a let's say, for argument's sake, operations guy to come in and where the South African business is a gateway to Africa, and he is managing not only the South African business, but also the expansion plan into Africa and internationally. He comes with a skill set that you can't find for someone who's only worked in a South African business. So he is immediately earning a much, much bigger salary, and because of that, he obviously needs to pay tax in South Africa because he's working in South Africa. So there is this big opportunity for that tax bracket. And then obviously, if it is skilled guys are earning large salaries, guys with many years of experience. So I think that data comes from that base.
We've been speaking about what brings us to the notion of immigrants and expats in the country, pushing back on the commonly held view that foreign nationals or foreign residents in our country are taking our jobs. In fact, the data is showing from a study that Marisa is talking to us about that they not only actually increase the likelihood of jobs, but also can increase South African income per capita by 5%, up to 5%. Marisa, we were chatting a bit before the break about the nature of the critical lists on which the critical skills lists and the industries in which we require these skill sets from foreign nationals. As critical as these tend to be, the prevailing complaint we always hear from, I have friends who are expats or even when I speak to John on Business in Africa, is they can't get the paperwork together. The Department of Home Affairs is not moving fast enough. In your experience, what are the key challenges to this?
In 2014, the law changed, and one of the major changes that came into effect during that time is that guys now need to apply in their home country to get a visa. Previously, you would apply in South Africa directly with the Department of Home Affairs, but in an effort to streamline processes, you now apply at the South African Embassy or High Commission in your home country. And what we are seeing more and more is that the different embassies handle applications differently. They want to see the documentation in different formats with different information on it, and that is creating a lot of challenge. So where guys speak to each other, one guy submitting in country A, the next guy submitting in country B, they sort of compare notes, think I've got a perfectly compliant application, I'm going to have no issues, and they get there and they are then faced with issues. And this is because you are dealing with humans, and all of them, they're dealing with...
Throw them away. Get machines. Okay. Yeah.
So they're dealing with these applications on a daily basis. They go through millions and millions and millions of pieces of paper, and they sort of get into a flow of how they want to receive their things, which are the boxes they need to tick, which are the little red flag items that they know if this isn't there, then there's something wrong with this application. And it's different for each and every embassy. So that's definitely a big challenge across the industry, is that an application is not an application, you have to be specific in terms of where you're submitting.
I'm with you. But aren't there, my understanding is that there are plenty specialist companies that assist, especially for multinationals, that can assist and specialize, for example, in German and Zimbabwean and Brazilian expats coming to South Africa and would have, I imagine, a relationship with those embassies and can have oversight of it. Do they not?
Absolutely. That's what we do. We've got a large client base in terms of big multinationals and large corporates. We deal with the foreign embassies on a daily basis, so we get to know them extremely well, and we know exactly what to check for. And we have guys in our office, a consultant who specializes in applications being filed in the UK, and she knows exactly what to look for and exactly how to customize that application.
Is it still complex, notwithstanding?
It's still complex because the guys, remember, they also update their requirements and their systems all the time. So an application you submitted yesterday might not be fine tomorrow. So you can't be complacent and say, okay, now I've got this covered. You need to be checking and speaking with those guys on a weekly basis to make sure that you are still up to date with what the latest requirements are.
Right. So I've seen a couple of things. The one is the breaking up of families sometimes. The spousal visa sometimes doesn't come through. But the other that I've observed is sometimes these executives or business people, we often think that the people who are undocumented are all people who've run across from Kruger National Park. Some of them just sort of come on a holiday visa and then just stay. What do we do about that, and how do we get your Italian visitor who's like, I'm just going to stick around and teach surfing in Muizenberg and nobody will notice. What do we do about that, and how does the Home Affairs Department handle that?
One of the other big changes that came into effect is there was a huge problem with that historically, and it's not completely gone away, but I think this change has helped. Is you used to in the past just get a slap on the wrist when you leave the country a month or two late, saying you just go, oh, please don't do that again. Now you are getting declared an undesirable person. If you've overstayed your visa, even by a single day, you get stamped by the Home Affairs official at the airport as an undesirable person. It gets put on the system, and you can't enter the country again for minimum of 1 year. And if you then need to enter again, you have to formally explain why you did that, what was the reasons, and why do you want to come back. So I think that has, to a large extent, I'd love to see the data on it, but I would imagine that has to a large extent fixed most of it. Like the Italian and the guys from who are just naughty.
Right. So, but by and large, you're highly skilled, are mostly working with a company like an Xpatweb, and it's really supportive of our economy.
Absolutely. And all the discussions that we have with Home Affairs and the officials at embassies is that they are encouraged to issue visas to skilled nationals. We want to attract them. We want them to come to the country. So there's most certainly, I think when I speak to clients, they often think there's this notion that the guys are trying their best to reject and not issue visas. It's not true at all. They are encouraged to issue visas.
Right. Marisa, I really appreciate your insight. I'm glad to hear that. More diverse economy, in my opinion, always is supportive of a stronger economy. We've been speaking to Marisa Jacobs. She is a director of Xpatweb, about the importance of not only the immigrants that come into the country, but a visa regime and an overall business culture that's supportive of the invitation of immigrants, which it seems improvements are afoot in that regard.